All right, so if you are here, you should have version B quiz. So that was where I crossed it out and kind of hand wrote the B. So make sure you're in the right video. Otherwise, you need to stop watching this right now and go to that one. So the first two were from the adding polynomials lesson. So to do this, this is where we set up our groups after we rewrote what was in the parentheses. But since we have the plus in the middle, it doesn't really affect much, so I'm going to go straight away with the groups. So we have f to the power 5. We have f squareds over here. I'm going to go in order of our exponents. And then we have f on its own, and then just solid numbers. So f to the power 5 goes in this first group. Negative 5f goes in that third column. And then positive 25 at the end. Okay, again, that plus sign in the middle doesn't change anything. So we have 3f squared in our second column. Then negative 12f. And then positive 9. Okay, so again, this was worth 3 points. If you got this far, I gave you 2 points. If you missed a sign or something like that at the very end, you probably just got the 2 points. But to finish it for the full 3 points, we just add them all up. So that first column doesn't have anything. I'm just going to drop it down. Same thing with the second one. And then negative 5 plus negative 12 is negative 17. So that was the one most of y'all missed if there was a mistake. It was with those negative signs. And then 25 plus 9 is positive 34. Okay. For the second one, our groups are x squared. We have x, and we have regular numbers. Okay, so I saw a lot of y'all trying to multiply and do stuff up here. When we have plus between those parentheses, we are not multiplying. So filling this in, we have 4x squared. We have negative 3x and positive 2. So that's everything from my first set of parentheses. From my second set, we have negative x squared. So I'm going to write that as negative 1x squared. And then we have negative 3x here also. Okay. Adding these up, we have 4 plus negative 1, which is the same as 3x squared. Negative 3 plus negative 3 is negative 6. So I saw a lot of zeros here, but it is not 0. There's nothing to cancel out. If you owe 2 different people $3, you owe $6 total. So this is not canceling out. This is just negative. And then I'm left with positive 2. Okay, so if you did not understand what was going on here, or if you just totally forgot, you need to go back and make sure you have finished that lesson, or just redo the whole lesson again, so that you can have it memorized for your test. All right, the next two were over subtracting polynomials. So the only difference here is that between my parentheses, I have that negative sign, and that means I need to change everything to the right to be the opposite sign. So when I'm multiplying negative 1 by everything, right, negative 1's in the front, it changed the sign. So my groups here, or excuse me, just rewriting without parentheses, we have AR squared minus 7R minus 9. The opposite of negative R squared is positive R squared. The opposite of positive R squared, or R, is just negative R. Okay, so one more time. 8R squared minus 7R minus 9, that stays the same. The opposite of negative R squared is positive. The opposite of positive R is negative. So for my groups, we have R squared r and numbers. So for r squared, I have 8 and I have the 1 right here. So instead of just positive, I am going to include that 1. For my r terms, we have negative 7r and negative r. And again, we can put that with the 1. And then I think the only thing we have left is negative 9. Yep. So 8 plus 1 is 9r squared. Negative 7 plus negative 1 is negative 8r. And then we are left with negative 9. Okay, so for the full 3 points, I need to see your table set up with the correct signs, or you need to show me that we switch the signs here, set up the table, and add. So number 4, the way you could have received full credit is, again, if you set up your table. So we've got q squared, q, and numbers. So we have negative 5q squared. We have positive 6q and 7. So that's all from that first set. Then opposite of negative q is positive 1q squared. Opposite of positive 4 is negative 4q. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, that difference. If you can change those signs and remember to do it for every single thing inside the parentheses correctly, then I'm fine with this. But if you forget a sign or two, I want you to rewrite it out before you put it in the table, because that might help. And then just finishing up this one, negative 5 plus 1, you should have had negative 4q squared. Then 6 minus 4q, this was the one y'all messed up the most. You should have had 2q, not 10. And then positive 7 at the very end. For number 5, that was worth 2 points. And this was the lesson that corresponded with multiplying monomials. So for this one, you needed to know that we multiply the coefficients. So 3 times 11 is 33. Then my base is x, and then you needed to know to add exponents. So 5 plus that invisible 1 is 6. A lot of y'all did some crazy things on these. No FOIL. There's only one thing to multiply. Here there's 2. So for number 6, this was also worth 2 points, and this was the multiplying monomials by polynomials lesson. So this one you would have had 2x cubed times x. And that is the same as 2 times 1, so that's 2. My base is x, and then it's 3 plus that invisible 1, which gives me 4. The second thing that I multiply is 2x cubed times negative 4. So 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, and then we just have those x cubes left over. And then putting this all together, I would have 2x to the power 4 minus 8x cubed. Okay, we can't make this one thing because they are 2 different groups. And then number 7, this was over multiplying binomials. We honestly had a bunch of different lessons that had this in it. So make sure you've completed all of those and you actually understand what you're doing. You're not using those little fake calculator, whatever things. So for number 7, you could use the box method, but I'm going to keep going with FOIL. If you used the box method and you're not sure about something, feel free to ask me in class, but otherwise we should be here. So x times x is what goes in the F group. So that's my x times x. O is x times 6. My inside term is negative 5 times negative 5 times positive x. And then my last terms are negative 5 times 6. Okay, so multiplying these all out, x times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. And negative 5 times 6 is negative 30. From here, you should have combined your like terms. So you could have set up your table like we did on numbers 1 through 4, or you could have just shown me that these were like terms by circling them. So x squared, that's off on its own, and 6 plus negative 5 is the same as 1. So that's positive 1x, but I am not going to write the 1 because you're not going to ever see it written there. You need to know that this means 1x, and then at the very end we have negative 30. So this is what you should have had for number 7. This one was worth 4 points. Looking at the back, this is where I wanted you to explain one problem. And I pretty much gave you full credit if you tried and I could follow your steps. But I want us to get moving towards this. So as an example, this person did number 3. So this was 8r squared minus 7r minus 9 minus r squared plus r. So the first thing I like is I do appreciate that they included what the problem actually was. And then they walked me through step by step what they did. So number 1, in problem number 3, the first thing I did was separate all of the variables. Perfect. She made the table, she separated all the variables into her groups, and in the diagram she labeled this number 1. So this is very, very clear what her first step is. She gave me the verbal description and she showed me what was happening. Love that. Then we have number 2. After that, I rewrote the question because of the negative sign in the parentheses. Beautiful. So right here, she's showing that we went from 2 separate parentheses to getting rid of that, and then she distributed that negative throughout. So nothing changed here. I see the negatives, and she told about it over here. Number 3 says, then I put all of the variables in their correct places. Okay, so filled out the table. So 1 and 3 go for that table. Those are what those bubbles are for. And then number 4, she said, when I'm all done with that, all I do is add them up, which that definitely happened. And so that's it. And if she were to take away the numbers and just literally put all of those together in one paragraph, she's perfect from here on out. But this is 100% where you should be. If you are able to do this, you are going to be fantastic in life. And the feedback, just if you drew anything or wrote anything, you got plus 2 points. So feel free to respond to anything that I wrote if you have any questions.